So this is my OneDrive account. I'm just going to delete the Uniface JPEG file. It just contains a Uniface logo, so that we can see when we've transferred that file. And I'm going to try and authenticate myself to the OneDrive account and then load a file. Now the process of authentication is such that I have to register my application first, to tell OneDrive that I'm going to be in touch with it. And the way that that happens is that you go to the registration site. This is already, we're already there. These are the details of my application. It's called REST application. The OneDrive site will generate an application ID for you. It will generate a secret, an application secret, both of which you have to use when you're authenticating yourself. And the third part, or the third step in this, is that you also have to provide a URL where the OneDrive authentication protocol will send a code to this URL, and you have to be able to have access to that URL so that you can pick up that code and return it to Microsoft. So it's a bit like the normal verification where many sites have, where they say, well, I just want to verify that your email address is really for you, so I'm just going to send you an email, and you have to read that email and return the code that is in it. So in part, instead of an email, what we're using here is a URL, and it is actually a static server page in Uniface. So they're the three parts of registering an application, and we're going to have a look at how that works. So in order to be able to access that URL, that USP defined on that URL, I have to start my Tomcat service, which is already running, and I have to start my URouter, because the way a USP is run is that a request comes into the web server, the Tomcat web server. The web server will pass that request through to the URouter, and the URouter will start a server that runs the USP. So I'm going to start my router, and then I'm going to start my form. Now on this form, I've painted an HTML widget in this area, and it's going to help me handle the interactive logon that is required in the first stage of the authentication. So I firstly have to sign on. That's my username and password. Once this happens, the OneDrive API will get in touch with my USP, and it will send a code there. Now I can see that because of this text, my USP has returned a success status. It has received the code, so I can now go myself from this application to the USP and get the code. Once I've got the code, I'll send it back to Microsoft, and hopefully they'll give me some more information. So that's what's happened. I've retrieved the code, I've sent it to Microsoft, and Microsoft is sent me back an access token that I can now use to up and download files. This token is actually valid for 1 hour. This was the URL that I used to log on initially to the Microsoft site. This is the code that it sent back, and now I've got a bearer token that I can use to access the site. So that's the authentication. I've written this access token to a file, and then I'll be able to retrieve that when it comes to uploading and downloading files. So I'll come out of there. I don't need my router anymore because I've done my authentication and I don't need my USP, so I can stop that. So now I can start up another form, and I'm going to upload that Uniface JPEG file with the Uniface logo. So I'm not going to use any specific options. I'm just going to do a simple upload. That file is already present in my local directory, which you can see a relative path there. So now if I detail, I'm going to start the upload. What will happen is because I've got a debug statement in this proc code, the debugger should start up, and it'll give me the opportunity to show you some of the code that is being executed. So the first thing that's happening is that I'm going to call my load file contents operation. That will be using the name, the Uniface JPEG, and once that's loaded, I'm going to call the get info operation to get a digest that is encoded in SHA-1 encoding, and I'm going to save that on my form so that I can check that once the upload has happened, that there was no corruption. And then after that, I have to create the headers. As you can see here, I'm creating an authorization header with a token with my access token, and it's of type bearer. I'm specifying the content type is application octet string because it's going to be a binary file, and I'm specifying the length. I'm zeroing my contents parameter. I'm creating the URL, so I'm going to send my file to this URL. This is the URL that is specified in the REST API, and they're very simple operations. You have it's an HTTPS connection. It's api-onedrive.com, and by saying drive/root, well, it's just going to go straight into the root of my OneDrive account. There's not going to be any folders created. I'm going to give it a name, and I'm saying that this is the contents of the file, and I'm using the put verb to send it up to the OneDrive, to my OneDrive account. And then here's the send. What happens after that is that if it went successfully, I can look at the contents parameter, which now has been returned to me in the response. In actual fact, there is JSON in there, and I'm using JSON to struct to interpret that. And I'm having a look at the digest that is returned to me in that response. So I'll just let it go. And it has successfully uploaded the file. This was the digest that I created myself, and this is the one that is returned from the REST API. And at a swift glance, it looks the same. So that's the upload. So if I have a look now again at my OneDrive account and I refresh it, hopefully I should see that my Uniface JPEG file has been uploaded, and if I click on it, I can see the logo, and as expected, it hasn't been corrupted in any way. So that really concludes my demonstration of the API. I'm just looking across to see if there are any questions. And
it's been quiet again on the chat.
Okay. So I hope that's reasonably clear the way it works. All of this, of course, is documented on the in our library. I believe these samples are also available on Uniface Info, or so that you can further look. There are more complicated types of transfer where we can send files in pieces using a chunk option, but all the code is in there, so you can examine that at your leisure. Okay, well, thanks for listening, and I hope that's of use.
Thank you very much, Andy.